I will entitle this little research article, When and When Not to Give. So what are the moral and legal ramifications for giving? In listening to someone on CSN radio today, 622-18, he was challenging people to take the 90-day giving test, to give out of desire and not because you were guilted into it. Oh, wait. What does the 90-day giving test do? It either makes you feel guilty or wanting a good ROI, return on investment. What right does this man have to say what he did? What does Jesus have to say about giving to God? In the Old Testament, that's what they call it before Jesus came on board, which I don't know what you would call it when Jesus was here. Was that old or new or mid or combined? Anyway, in the Old Testament, it says it was 10% of the crops, etc., to be given to the Levites, the priests who did not own land because of the condition of the covenant they were under. They were going to do this to keep the temple going. And so in Numbers 3:5-10, the Lord said to Moses, "Bring forward the tribe of Levi and appoint them as servants of Aaron the priest. They shall do the work required for the tent of my presence and perform duties for the priests and for the whole community. They shall take charge of all of the equipment of the tent and perform the duties for the rest of the Israelites. The only responsibility the Levites have is to serve Aaron and his sons. You shall appoint Aaron and his sons to carry out the duties of the priesthood. Anyone else who tries to do that shall be put to death." In Numbers 18:21 it says, "I give to the Levites all the tithes in Israel as their inheritance in return for the work they do while serving at the tent of meeting." And then in Deuteronomy 14:22-28, "Be sure to set aside a tenth of all that your fields produce each year. Eat the tithe of your grain, new wine and olive oil, and the firstborn of your herds and flocks in the presence of the Lord your God, at the place he will choose as a dwelling for his name, so that you may learn to revere the Lord your God always. But if that place is too distant, and you have been blessed by the Lord your God and cannot carry your tithe, because the place where the Lord will choose to put his name is so far away, then exchange your tithe for silver, and take the silver with you, and go to the place the Lord your God will choose. Use the silver to buy whatever you like, cattle, sheep, wine, or other fermented drink, or anything you wish. Then you and your household shall eat there in the presence of the Lord your God, and rejoice. And do not neglect the Levites living in your towns, for they have no allotment or inheritance of their own. At the end of every 3 years, bring all the tithes of that year's produce and store it in your towns." Okay, so what did Jesus have to say about giving? Remember, the temple was still standing when he was there. He said, "Give without expecting accolades and notice." However, things changed in 70 AD, just as Jesus said they would. The temple was destroyed, and the Israelites were emigrated into other countries. So what does Paul have to say about giving? He says, and you can research this, tell me if I'm wrong, "Give as the Lord prompts you." This was to the very few existing churches in the area at that time. They were supporting each other. Now we are to give to the poor. That is the one thing that remained constant through the Old, the Mid, and the New Testament. I don't see a whole lot of poor pastors, let me tell you. They are rich and fat. I don't think the money was ever meant to go to their coffers. They are not Levites, and they are not poor, and they guilt you into keeping their businesses running. So stop. If their business is legitimate, it will stand on its own. So legally, we don't have to give to anyone but the government for taxes, fees, fines, penalties, tickets, etc. We do not owe these churches 10%. In fact, they should be paying me. I'm more of a Levite than they are, because I'm a musician. I am also the temple of the living God. So pay your dues, dudes. Now, this is a brief summary only. There are lots of places, both on the internet and in the actual book, that you can research. So see if you come up with something contrary to what I have found. What I will say is that people are, oh, this is going to surprise everybody. They take the truth of God's word and twist it to their own benefit. Ugh, imagine that. End of message.